Well, we got a break from the Cowboy basketball heartache just to have the cardiac Cowgirls show up and sock us in the chest. Thankfully, though, the transfer portal has not been a shock to the chest this season. The overall recruiting ranking, that's a different story. We could kind of be okay with the overall recruiting number being what it is if, I don't know, we actually recruited the ones who matter the most.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on Twitter at AllDayOState. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel because right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. We are going to get started rolling into recruiting, but with a little bit of a different flavor, obviously, because whenever you think about the recruiting number, it's not always indicative of the talent that we have coming in. Looking at you, Landon Cleveland, Gunnar Wilson, Tamarick Johnson, Jonathan Agumadou. But the legacy side of the thing, it's always going to matter more. It should always matter more. Y'all know having guys like Rylan McQuire, Elijah Wright, Solomon Wright on the roster definitely matters. Having guys like Tylan Wallace rocking O-State gear in the NFL with his brother still on the sidelines coaching for Oklahoma State and Trayson Wallace, it matters. Having brothers currently like Talon Shetron and Tabry Shetron is a great sight for all Cowboys. And getting the new offensive line twins from Ohio and Ashton and Aiden Isaacs, equally awesome. But not offering Duce Bell is a criminal offense. Kasey Dunn should be put on trial for the criminal mastermind of this ridiculousness. Evidently, we can't fire him. Evidently, if Greg Richmond does pretty decent, he can get fired, but Kasey Dunn could suck us into a whole vortex of obscurity, and that would be okay. Okay, fine. If he can't be fired for his offensive ineptitude, can we at least maybe consider running his ass out on the rails for this crap, please? You can suck at one of your jobs, I guess. That's okay, but you got to take care of the other. Since we don't have a choice in the matter, can we at least agree that he can suck all he wants at calling plays or attempting to be half-ass creative or, God forbid, innovative? If we can at least get the recruiting right, maybe that's okay. This is the same guy who's produced several NFL wide receivers. Some would have called him a savant. I'm not saying that he's completely lost his ability at the wide receiver position, but we lost JPR, we lost Boogie, we lost Blaine Green, Bryson Green, Langston Anderson, Leon Johnson now, Jaden Braid now. And we can't properly pursue a legendary legacy. And it's not like this is a favor. We're not talking this is a good old boy buddy system of, yeah, sure, I'll give your son an offer, even if he can't play at this level. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Tatum Duce Bell. He needs no introduction because he's already got offers from Texas Tech, Houston, TCU, Colorado State, amongst others. Meanwhile, we're sitting on our hands. This 5'10", 190-pound product is a certified 10,700-meter guy who recently converted from running back, like his dad, to wide receiver / corner. He can play cornerback. Like he's got some Whit Edwards film out there. But how do we not get ahead of the curve here? How do we not jump ahead of Texas Tech, Houston, TCU, and Colorado freaking State with somebody who made varsity as a freshman. Now, anywhere, that's a big deal, yeah? But in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's an even bigger deal. Last year, converting to full-time wide receiver, he had 50 grabs, 647 yards, 8 touchdowns, 12.9 yards per reception, bringing his total, because he also played running back the year before, to 811 total yards in basically 1 year and a few months of high school ball in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But no Kasey Dunn. And, I mean, no Mike Gundy either. And what hurts even more is, guys, when the recruiting process kind of started for Duce, Oklahoma State obviously was, always going to be on the radar. But it took several visits this year before he really, really fell in love, before it made sense to him. Not just hearing the stories and hearing the old guys talk about how great his dad was, but to see his dad on the walls and the murals and the NFL stuff, and alongside all the other phenomenal running backs that we've had at Oklahoma State. And then the wide receiver core, it's even better. This should be a 3-for-1 special. But we're not nailing it. And we've got more legacies that we're finding a way to not nail. I don't get it. Like, what are we doing? If you're going to tell us that our recruiting number might be in the 60s, but we're going to get all of these legends, are we super happy with the number? Maybe not. No, but are we pretty happy with the guys on the sidelines, even if it's just from a nostalgic position? But that's the thing here is Tatum, Duce, Bell, all right? It's not a favor. The production is there. The film is there. All of the accolades from a very, very, very young age are already there. But we're not. What you can do, though, is make sure that you can get to any event and be the MVP of any event with eBay Motors. Guys, today, everything is getting more difficult, right? Purchasing anything is no longer easy. Car parts are no different. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle. From superchargers to roof racks, to exhaust kits, LED lighting kits, and more. With over 122 million parts to choose from, they can keep your number one ride or die rig alive. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, the part is guaranteed to fit your rig every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, all the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP that you need to bring home the win. Keep your ride or die rig alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All righty, guys. All right, so let's just keep this train on the tracks here. We're not going to go into derailment mode. But staying in this legacy vein, we've also got an opportunity to right a wrong and bring Vernon Grant III home. He's a 5'10", 195-pound linebacker who won a state title at Duncanville with former Cowboy Rashad Samples. Now, even if Rashad has some salty feelings towards the way that he ended his career at Oklahoma State, I can assure you that he wouldn't have prevented or slowed any Oklahoma State interest for Vernon Grant, because he knows good and daggone well that it is his dream to play in Stillwater. So it would have been crazy to think that Rashad would have let any of his personal animosity derail anything positive for Vernon Grant, especially since Rashad Samples helped him land a full ride at Toledo, the same Toledo that had Matt Campbell for a long time, the same Toledo that had DeQuan Finn that is now at Baylor. That Toledo He turned Toledo down to go to Southwestern in Oklahoma so he could have another crack at becoming a Cowboy. He was benching over 270 and squatting over 460 in high school. He was clearly the heart and soul of his team at Duncanville. By all the love he gets, all the publicity, and even the teammates as he's, having on-field interviews, you can just feel the love they have for that dude. And for anyone saying he's too small, or maybe he's just not quite at the Oklahoma State level yet, I now present to you Isaiah McQuire. Isaiah McQuire is a 6'6", 270-pound defensive end from Tulsa, Oklahoma. This Union High School product chose Mizzou over Tulsa and Missouri State. I didn't misquote. There's no Oklahoma State in there. His dad, Tarek McQuire, played tight end for Oklahoma State with Tatum Bell. They never got an Oklahoma State offer. So instead, he just moseyed his way on up to Mizzou, where he turned into an all SEC, all everything dude at Mizzou, then became a fourth-round pick, and then spent this season backing up some random dude that just won the defensive MVP nobody's ever heard of, named Myles Garrett. So is it a miss? Yes. Does a miss hurt? Yes. But does the miss hurt a lot more when it's a legacy home run that you didn't even try for? It's like standing in the batter's box in baseball and watching three straight fastballs go down the pipe and you not swinging any of them. That's what happens. And then he's off in the NFL doing the daggone thing when he was waiting on an Oklahoma State offer. So was Vernon Grant. And he turned down the offer at Toledo because he wants to be a Cowboy, because it matters more, just like it matters more to Tatum, Duce, Bell. But what are we doing? Okay, now we have the opportunity to get way ahead of the curve here and not mess this one up, because we got another legacy in the pipeline, this time Caleb White. Another 5'9", 175-pound corner/wide receiver, already running a 4.5 40 at 15 years old, was benching 205. Repeat that back to yourself. She ran a 4.5 40 and was benching 205 at 15 years old. This Houston Summer Creek product is class of 2027, so we can't say that we're late to the party. We can't say we didn't have time. This young man was just featured at the VTO Elite 100 All-American Camp hosted by ESPN, and he was voted the junior underclassman MVP. Overall, top 6 in the camp, and he was the only middle school athlete in America last year to be invited to any of these style of things. The film says, why in the flip is Caleb White on JV? Because he does exactly what you want him to do, which is dominate. Like the very, very first clip on his highlight is him in press coverage, locking up the wide receiver and blocking the wide receiver all the way into the backfield and sacking the quarterback. This is perfect time to get in early on somebody that needs to matter more. Why else was he on JV? Well, a little rezoning district issue arose that made life unnecessarily interesting. And number 2, Summer Creek was really good by going 14-2 and then having 2 starting upperclassmen in Duria Green, Colin Irving, and Denham Samples. All of those dudes were juniors or seniors on this last team. But it's not a secret anymore. We do get some legacies, as we just discussed, but we also know that for whatever the reasoning was, we missed out on Barry Sanders Jr. early, coming out of high school in Tulsa. We've missed out on Justice Hill's brother, Dax Hill, going to Michigan. We missed out on Jabbar Muhammad's brother, Malik Muhammad. We missed out on Corey Black when he was trying to help us get Kobe Black. AJ Green had a cousin that we weren't able to reel in as well. So it's not necessarily news that we're missing on some legacies, but it should be news right now because the Tatum Bell story, it's going to punch us in the throat repeatedly if we don't hurry up. I mean, eventually it gets to the point where, well, I really want to be a Cowboy, but why did it take Oklahoma State so long to get on board? Why is Oklahoma State more interested in other wide receivers for the 25-26 classes? Guys, Tatum Bell is a phenomenal ambassador for Oklahoma State. Tatum Bell, Duce will be even better. But as it sits right now, we might find ourselves in a position of losing out on acquiring his services. It's crazy to me. Thankfully, it's not crazy in the transfer portal for Oklahoma State. Last season, obviously, different story. Where you lose 25, 26 guys, you got to bring in, 20, 22 transfer style of dudes that are going to try to mesh with the system, and you don't really know how it's going to turn out. We had guys like Elijah Collins and Alan Bowman that were able to kind of stem the tide, bridge the gap. Dijon Stribling is going to be a very big deal. Leon Johnson jumped in and helped us kind of stem the tide to save the season to get us to the Big 12 title game. Because of that, we don't really have a lot of craziness happening in the portal. So because we don't have a need to go grab 20 dudes, thankfully, we get to now see what it looks like in this NIL landscape to have a developmentally backed squad. Last year, we had to land some transfers in the portal just to fill the gaps. This year, we don't have that issue. But now, we get to find out if the Mike Gundy way is better than the Deion Sanders way. Because this is exactly what you want. You've got almost 90% of your roster back. You've got 20, 21-ish style of returners coming back. You've got a lot of 6-year guys. You've got a lot of 7-year guys, which means you've got a lot of developmental dudes. You've got some guys that have been here for years now. And you've still got a pretty healthy chunk of the 2021 class. So this is a good mixture, right, of a handful of transfer guys last season that are able to stay for another year this go around, on top of the development that was already being put together with Rob Glass, as opposed to the exact opposite end of the spectrum for Colorado. Deion Sanders brought in 6 high school kids. We're going to bring in like 6 transfer kids. That's a big difference. It's the exact opposite. So is there still a place in this new transfer NIL market for developmental programs? We're about to find out, because that's what this is. This is the Oklahoma State developmental guys that have been here for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years versus a lot of places that are now going to field half of their rosters with transfer portal guys and then do it again the next year and then again the next year. I think if you look at K-State is in a position where they've had to use the portal more this year than the year previous, but they still have a decent amount of development. So K-State's going to be a good case study as well. But is this internal development going to shine through over all these teams that have 20, 25, 26, 28, 30 transfer style guys? And then in the case of Colorado, it could be even more. I cannot wait to see what this dichotomy looks like. Because if it does go in our favor, then we will then have the realization that we don't have to completely rely on the transfer portal like some other schools are already banking on. We still need to have a large portion of development be the bread and butter. It needs to be the meat and taters. If we're successful, then a lot of other colleges are going to follow the same blueprint in regards to not just diving full into the portal year after year after year. You're going to have some years, right, where you got to kind of bridge the gap. That's normal. That's what the transfer portal was supposed to be for. It's not supposed to be about fill your roster portal, fill your roster portal, fill your roster portal. All that does is discourage more high school development. All that does is put high school development going backwards, which means you're going to have to spend more time on the young cats, which means you're eventually going to squeeze high school football out of viability. Unless situations like this pop up. If Oklahoma State can have a phenomenal year, end up Big 12 title game, end up CFP playoff, it will then be a little bit of a litmus test for some coaches in the country to say, look what Oklahoma State did. Yeah, they've used the portal when they needed to fill some holes, but they're not banking on their success coming from the portal. They're banking on the development, with the portal being a Band-Aid to bridge the gap in between some years. So I actually really hope that happens for high school development, recruiting futures. I hope that universities can see that there has to be a significant amount of development to go alongside with the portal, or you're doing the game a disservice. Because if this does not go well, right, we only bring in 5, 6, 7 transfer guys. We bring back 90% of the roster, and you got 20, 21-ish returning starters, and it goes completely sideways, and that's a failed experiment. Unfortunately, people are then going to say, see, look, transfer portal, it's the way of the world. There's got to be some universities that still pride themselves on development and then can turn that into some success. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're not successful. It doesn't matter if you return 90% of your roster and 21 returning starters, and then you have a bad year, because then people are going to say, yeah, you kept too many people. You should have let some people go and bring in more transfer dudes. I think a lot of us hope that this is a very successful season for Oklahoma State for a multitude of reasons, but this being one of them. The future of the game is not being taken in consideration. We're going further and further and further away from what it was all supposed to be. Oklahoma State has the opportunity behind Mike Gundy to make a statement. And that statement can be, use the portal as a Band-Aid, but it shouldn't be the backbone of your university. Speaking of backbones, the backbone of basketball is still J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls. All right. We just, we took it on the chin. And it's not even necessarily the loss in a game that you should win that's more bothersome. In this scenario, it's almost looking at the future that is bothersome. Because I do think that Cincinnati was able to kind of showcase the blueprint of how you beat J.C. Hoyt and this Cowgirl basketball squad. And that blueprint is to get him in foul trouble quick. If you can do that, you're going to have a shot. Cincinnati is not better than Oklahoma State. Cincinnati does not have more talent on the bench than Oklahoma State. But what Cincinnati does have is numbers that we don't have. Now, we're going to cover that a little bit more. But this seems to be a little bit of a cause for concern, because Cincinnati is the bottom half of this conference. And although we still have a shot at postseason play, of course, we still have the opportunity to make a run, right, for the Big 12. But we're going to play teams that are significantly better than Cincinnati. And if those teams that are better than Cincinnati, if they can rotate 13 people and get us in foul trouble and get us tired early, it's going to be a long night. That's precisely what happened. Now, I don't know if you got to give kudos to their coach. I mean, their coach has been there for like 6-7 years. So she does know what she's doing. But that's not a good. It's not a good look. If you're any other team in this conference, you watched that game and said, "There it is. That's how you beat Oklahoma State." Because again, nobody's going to question the talent. The talent that we have with Hannah Gusters is legitimate. Staley Hurd, one of the best freshmen in the country, it's legitimate. Quincy Noble has been the leader that we need. Praise has stepped up for redshirt freshman, and she's been pivotal at times. Riley Langerman, the Norman native transfer from Arkansas, she missed parts of the season, but she's been pretty instrumental recently as well. But again, we only have 7-8 players. That seems to be a little bit of a concern. If we're in foul trouble early, I mean, we had this discussion with the boys' game. The last men's game, we had to let people go wide open down the lane because we're in foul trouble. Well, that happened on the road at Cincinnati for J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls. We got in foul trouble and we couldn't do anything. So we just had to give up easy buckets so we didn't commit more fouls. And then at one point in time, when it looked like it was going to go to overtime, I was like, that's actually not a good thing. It's worse for us if it goes to overtime because we've already got multiple players with 4 fouls. So, I mean, we barely hung on as it was, but it was barely hanging on in a loss. So how do you remedy this situation? If you have a numbers issue, but you now know the blueprint to beat you is just to get you in foul trouble and get everybody tired. I'll say this. Whatever postseason run that J.C. Hoyt can put forth, it's going to be one whale of a coaching job because we're doing it with 8 players. Alrighty, y'all. So we're going to have for this one right here. I will be on the road, Houston bound, to go cover some high school football recruiting 7-on-7 tournaments. So the next time you see, not this show, but tomorrow's show, you know what? It doesn't matter. We'll just cross that bridge later, tomorrow. I love you. You know that. Alrighty, y'all. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Go like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't, but hit the dislike button twice just to make sure you double don't like it. I'm podcasting people. I love you. Travel safe. Drive safe. Go leave them stars. Alrighty, y'all. Later, taters.